Hey everyone, this is my look at the LEGO Star Wars Imperial Armored Marauder set from The Mandalorian. The set comes with 4 minifigures, 3 of which are Imperial Troopers. I'll show you what it looks like to try to put those figures inside of this vehicle or craft later, but first let's just focus on the build on the whole. The build process felt fine. You know, it's not that big of a build, so it wasn't that complex, didn't take that much time, but it felt pretty appropriate for how much got built up here, for its size, for its level of detail and everything. This is, let's see, what is the history of this thing? If I recall correctly, it was first a toy from Kenner before it was ever used in any official capacity. I think it may have been based on some concept art that was thrown out early on, or it might have just been made up by Kenner entirely to hold the 3 3/4 inch figures. But then I believe it was used in its original troop transport form in, what was it, Rebels, and then this is the Mandalorian version that's more armed than just armored, so it's more of an attack vehicle than a troop transport. Anyway, this thing has some history, and I appreciate that. You know, I like the fact that this is not just a made-up thing recently. It has some acculturation behind it, and I feel like LEGO did a pretty respectable job of capturing its main shapes here. It is mostly a gray blob, but I think it's a respectable gray blob that is appropriate to the source material. Now, this is able to open up in a number of ways. You can open it up here, you can open this up, the sides open up like so. That opens, this comes down as well, and in the back, all this opens up for access to a figure to sit back there. This can rotate around just a little bit, not very much. Even if canonically that is correct, I want this to be able to rotate around 360 degrees. In order to make it rotate around 360 degrees, you take this dark gray piece underneath here and you just remove it. Remove it entirely. It's just a stopper. So take this piece off and then this can rotate around 360 degrees, which makes more sense to me. I just like it better like that. You've got some storage compartments, one on either side. I'll show you what's inside of there. These are identical, so far, so good. These old World War I tank inspired side turrets and a couple of spring-loaded shooters on the sides as well, one on either side. And underneath of this, no wheels, but instead inverted tiles, which totally makes sense for something that's going to be just hovering across the surface. And those tiles help keep things together while keeping the build relatively thin and efficient under there, and also allowing this to slide relatively easily over smooth surfaces. You can also open up the top from here, and there's a hatch in the front that can be opened up just a little bit right there. There's so many things that can open on this. It might be a record for this size of thing. Looking down from the top, you can see there's a full seat there and a partial seat, but that's plenty of room for 2 minifigures to be sat in there, although it is a little bit difficult for especially adults to get fingers down in through this top opening to pose a figure, to sit a figure in there, to pick one up. So you may want to use a finger or so around the side opening to help you with manipulations in there. But speaking of the side opening, you also have access to enough space to put another figure right there. Then, as you already saw, there's a spot for a driver at the front, tail gunner at the rear, so this makes pretty good use of its space. And you can also have somebody up here on top pretending to peek through the roof hatch. Each storage compartment on the side here has one of these beautifully 4-sided printed crates, which is fantastic to get all those prints. No stickers in this set whatsoever. I just put one of the spare shots in there. Only one will fit per, but you have 2 of these boxes that are very collectible and very displayable, I think. I hope that this very piece becomes easily available. A lot of people want to use that for dioramas and such. This first minifigure is Grief Karga, aka Carl Weathers, officially in Star Wars. I never thought I would live to see the day. This is just fantastic. And now he's a LEGO minifigure as well. There's just too much cool wrapped up into one single figure. Thankfully, LEGO didn't do a terrible job at it. The prints are pretty good. They're a little bit subtle because, you know, there's a lot of dark on dark in the torso. But I kind of like the nougat color that's used. That's my favorite part of this. It also has some pretty fine detail in there. The face, I think, is pretty good. Maybe could have used a little bit more black print in the facial hair rather than just the light gray. But it's better to use light gray than black. If they were only going to go with one, maybe it would have been a little bit too confused or too busy if they tried to do both. But no alternate face is really unfortunate. Would have been nice to see a satisfied face. Like this is very good, but it would have been nice to have like a smirk, you know, just a partial smile or something. I think would have been appropriate. But this is going to be a super collectible figure in the future, I think. Amongst the troopers, no two are the same. And I'm not just talking about tiny, tiny little insignificant details that you have to look at really closely, like the slight difference in gap here versus that. You know, that one's printed just a little bit lower. No, there's something more significant here that I'll show you in just a second. But first, let's talk about this one on the left, which is the artillery trooper or Mortar Trooper. It doesn't really matter which you call it, because after all, Star Wars fans will only see a Stormtrooper with a little yellow on it. Ah, yeah, I went there. If you know, you know. If you don't, that's okay. Ask around. But I really like that figure, though. I think it looks excellent. Is it 100% accurate? Maybe not, but I think it looks good, and I think it looks recognizable. I like the pauldron as well. It's sized nicely. You actually build the backpack up a bit, which is not the greatest thing, but it's a lot better than having just a tiny single little tile or just a print on the back, which they could have done. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. The Stormtrooper helmets still are the Blue Harvest large, you know, Family Guy versions that look extra big, but have a lot of accuracies to them. And now for the big reveal on the differences between these. Oh no. Oh, this is going to bring so much hate. I'm sure it already has. Because this, I will admit, this does feel a little bit like a diversity checklist here, but I can get past that because ultimately what Lego is doing, you know, this looks kind of obvious, but what Lego is doing is intentionally making differences between the faces and heads on different Stormtroopers now in the Imperial and post-Imperial era, as they should. That is correct, and I appreciate that. I'm glad to see that Angry Clone is not being used for these anymore at all. And look at the back print for the Stormtrooper with a little yellow on it. That's a lot of detail, a lot of exclusive detail, a lot of stuff that you don't usually see. That's really well produced too. Very nice to see the extra effort there. Finally, the Mortar Artillery Trooper comes with a mortar, which is appropriate. It's a nice little build. It's sized pretty well, and yeah, I could not really ask for more than that, other than something that would actually shoot, but that would have ruined the design because it would have been huge, completely out of scale, but this just feels pretty appropriate to me. As for putting figures inside, it was, as I said, it would be difficult for me to get my adult-sized fingers down in there to get the rearmost trooper in place, but that one even has the backpack on, just is leaning forward. I think you could rotate it around to be facing towards the rear. That would work also, but it does fit there. He is attached with studs. Oh, wait, I can push it back. There we go. There actually is room. Look at that. There's plenty of room. Now, that's going to make it more difficult to get it out, but it does fit. This figure is fully seated down. This figure right here is fully seated down. I think can be moved up just, no, that's right about at the limit of how far forward it can lean. So this can be closed up. All that is working, and I have 3 people in there plus a driver. Well, Carl Weathers might not be the right driver for this situation, but you know what? Carl Weathers can do whatever Carl Weathers wants to do. I think I forgot to mention that there's a printed console piece here at the front as well, so that can close up. That all just closes just fine. I don't have to set things up exactly correctly. There's still room for a tail gunner here, and there's room to put somebody on top, so I'm just going to grab a random minifigure here from the side, and that can be, you know, a little lookout or something. These can rotate around. Take out that piece again so this can shoot forward. Of course, you don't want it to shoot into the back of your random minifigure, but you get it. There's a lot of functionality here. This thing, I think, works well for what it's intended to do. Last thing, these are the leftover pieces, the spares, including an extra white lightsaber hilt, and a couple of these trans bright green studs are intentional extras for your stud shooters. Okay, value is a tricky thing to talk about here because I paid $40 US for this, and it comes with closer to 500 than 400 pieces. Price to part ratio looks really good, right? And it even comes with like more than 1 or 2 minifigures, which nowadays is becoming a little bit difficult to see in sets this small. So I'm happy with I'm happy with the minifigures. You can never have too many Stormtroopers, right? So definitely they could have included 2 more to fill this up entirely, but I'm not going to complain because the troopers that are there are nice, especially that artillery, mortar, basic Stormtrooper with a little bit of yellow on him. This has so much functionality. It's not big. It does not look like $40 worth of stuff right here. Of course, the figures are inside, but still, I don't value figures too highly myself because ultimately they're just small assemblies of simple plastic. But yeah, this does not feel like $40 worth of stuff, but it does a lot. The detail is there. You feel the complexity when you build this, when you put it together. There's more value here, I think, than meets the eye. There's more quality here than there is quantity. The quantity is supported by quality. The quantity is supported by functionality. All these things that can open, all this stuff, really good use of space. Overall, I'm happy with this. I do wish it was a little bit cheaper. I can't get past that just because of its size. But overall, I understand the price and think that the design team did really, really well with it. If it was just a little bit cheaper, then it'd be great. $30, I think, would be too little to ask for this. I think $35 is the right price point for this, so it's just slightly overpriced, in my opinion. Let me know what you think, though. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.